Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It All Starts With a Wish podcast. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Mark. Big news this week. Sad news, but Hurricane Milton hit in Florida.
Yes.
I think it turned out better than it could have. I think we're kind of fortunate in the sense that it could have been a lot worse, but it also was pretty bad for a lot of people. So, obviously, not to start on a downer, but thoughts and prayers to everybody affected by Hurricane Milton, and also those still suffering from Helene, what the hell was its name?
Was it Helen? I thought it was just Helen.
Helen?
Maybe it wasn't.
I don't know. I got it wrong on the last
South Carolina.
episode. North Carolina,
North
mostly,
Carolina.
I think. We have friends who live in western North Carolina, and they were saying that it was pretty bad in that area. So, very sad news. Mother Nature strikes. And anyways, thoughts and prayers to everybody who may listen to this in that area, and obviously everybody affected by those storms or family members affected by those storms.
Yeah, it can be really scary.
It did hit Disney, too, as well.
It did.
Luckily, no major damage, which is always a good thing. I mean, a lot of time people freak out about some of these hurricanes with Disney and oh my gosh, they're going to destroy Disney and stuff. When they built Disney World, they knew where they were building it.
They had it in mind, yeah.
And so those buildings and their structures and everything that they build is made to withstand the most ridiculous wind and rain storms ever.
Be worried about would be the taller Tower of Terror, or I don't know, things that are taller maybe.
Yeah, but those rides are all made to
No, I know, but I'm thinking the rides
withstand.
that I would think that would be in danger.
Yeah,
or the Skyliner system, thinking about all those kind of things.
They knew where they were building, and they made those rides and buildings and hotels to withstand the potential worst of Mother Nature in Florida, which usually, more often than not, is a hurricane, unfortunately. It's what happens in that part of the world, so... but no major damage. The stuff that you would expect, down limbs, trees, stuff like that. Some
roof problems with some places.
Yeah, the Polynesian.
Some shingles and stuff.
But nothing major.
Yeah.
So, no need to worry.
Luckily...
People go to Disney to shelter in place there. Legitimately, Floridians go to Disney as a safe place to stay during storms that. So,
and Disney did offer, obviously, those places for residents that are around there. And they also make sure, if you are ever stuck in a storm, and unfortunately, they did close the parks, and they canceled a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party as well. Obviously, for the safety of cast members and everybody. But it just goes to show that, there are openings in rain and stuff, but there is a point, there's a line that, certain storms have to cross in order for them to completely, close it down and close for the day or 2 days or whatever it is. And I saw a lot of cool videos out there of just the resorts doing extra things, bringing some of that stuff. It can be really scary. You can be really upset that, you don't get to go to the party, or, you're a little disappointed, but you understand. But I feel like they do a really good job of bringing the magic of the parks in there to try to lift and keep the spirits up.
Yeah.
Because it can be a really scary time.
And shout out to all those cast members, too, who in the midst of these horrible storms go into work.
Yeah.
I heard something that they do that by a volunteer, that nobody's made to work during a storm like that, but all the cast members who come in have volunteered to come in during a storm.
And so it doesn't look like there's a shortage of staff members either, which...
It kind of makes it even more extraordinary that they're deciding in the middle of the storm to come in to make sure that you're safe and having a good time and enjoying yourself in the midst of this horrific weather event that's happening around you. So a special shout out to those cast members who make that magic happen. Absolutely. Even in the
dark times.
I wouldn't say in the dark times.
I got Harry Potter on my brain when Dumbledore says that.
Even in some of the most stressful and dangerous moments, they're still there to make your stay safe and magical. So shout out to them for doing that type of work. We actually got caught in a hurricane once.
Is this the one with me?
No, you were
Yeah, I
not
was
dating
not
yet.
in the picture yet.
I forget what hurricane it was, but it was at the
Guys were
very
driving, right?
end. We were driving, and it was at the very end of our stay that the hurricane was actually supposed to hit, like on the last day, like the day that we were supposed to leave or something like that. And my parents went to the front desk. We were staying at the All-Stars at the time. I think we were at the All-Star Movies, actually, and we were maybe in, like, the Herbie suite, or we were in the Mighty Ducks area, and we got moved to the Herbie section because we went to the front desk and were like, hey, we're supposed to leave today.
Supposed to drive.
It wasn't a horrific hurricane, but it was a pretty big hurricane. Yeah. I don't think the eye of the storm, like, went over us or anything, but we got, like, the outer bands. It was not something that we wanted to drive in. We kind of followed the hurricane all the way up the coast because the hurricane ran right up the coast. And this was one of those ones where there was major flooding in, like, New York City. It was a pain in the butt trying to come home.
Yeah.
Because we had to, like, detour around all these different places where we normally wouldn't go because of the flooding.
Yeah.
That resulted from the hurricane. But my point of the story is Disney was very accommodating.
Yeah.
And we weren't anticipating having to stay a night. They gave us a special rate. We didn't have to pay a full rack rate for the night. They gave us a special rate. They made sure that we had a room. They made sure that we were safe. And so do know that anytime that you go to Disney this time of year, you run the risk of
what is it, like
a
August
hurricane.
to November?
Really, effectively, I think July through the end of November
July.
Is really kind of like
hurricane
season.
Yeah.
The peak of hurricane season, I think,
Being
tends
right now,
to be
I feel like
late
October.
August into early October,
Yeah.
I think, is when you get most of your hurricanes that develop and may hit that area. You have to know going during that time of year that is a risk that you run, right?
It is.
Just because you're on vacation.
And there's been years where there hasn't been. I mean, this is a pretty big one. It's been a little while since they've had a really big one that closed Disney.
Yeah, I think last year maybe they might have had one that closed, or maybe it was
For
the year
a day.
before. Not for long, but
I'm just saying it doesn't mean it's every year that there's going to be closures or like that big of one. But, you know, like you said, there's a risk. There's a possibility.
You
It
have
is
to know that
hurricane season. You're going to mid to southern Florida. So this
you
is
run
what
that
happens.
risk by making that choice.
Yeah.
I think it's a great time of year to go down there.
It
But
is.
you do run that risk, and it could mess up things on your vacation. Like, you could have planned to go to the Halloween party, and it got canceled, right? And maybe only were going for 5 days.
And it was only on that one day that you could have gone.
That you could have gone.
couldn't- yeah.
So, you know, you do have to accept that going to Disney this time of year. And also, you were reading something on your agent's page about somebody who got,
we
like,
had-
cheap tickets or something.
Well, we had
and-
we have a lot of clients. I mean, there's a lot of agents in our agency. I mean, not compared to the really bigger agencies, but we had quite the amount of people down there that were, you know, calling and being like, what are we going to do? You know, having that panic of like, what is happening? And unfortunately going through other places sometimes who might be cheaper or getting, you know, quote unquote, better rates than going through Disney itself. They're not helpful. And there was a lot of...
Or they may not be helpful.
Or they may not be helpful. In this case, there was a few stories of them not being helpful. And some people wishing that they either had booked with someone like us, or just expressing their overall disappointment in the experiment, in the experience of working with some of those and not getting the proper communication or refunds, or just honestly it's the communication. I think you don't want to feel alone, like you were just like, here's your vacation package, here's your tickets, have fun. And then that's it. You never hear from them again. But then when you really need them, they're not there, or they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we don't do refunds, or you know, whatever it is. So
But again, this is where using a travel agent like yourself is advantageous to you.
Yeah.
You may not need Rachel to book your lightning lanes. I almost called it Genie Plus. They keep changing these dang names.
I know.
You may not need Rachel to book the lightning lanes. You may not need her to make your reservations. You may not need her to make an itinerary for you.
Right.
That's all stuff you may want to do, and that's fine. But when you book through her, when things go wrong or there's issues, you have an advocate on your side, unlike getting tickets through Costco like somebody did.
Yeah.
And they got them for real cheap.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They didn't refund your tickets that you got for real cheap. So what good does that do you, right? You run that risk. Again, another risk that you take by not using a travel agent like Rachel.
Yeah.
So you should always book your Disney vacation through Rachel. You can reach her at Armello at MickeyTravels.com.
Sorry. And I feel like that's another thing I feel like people will get upset about. And they do refund party tickets for cancellations of inclement weather. If it is a cancellation on Disney's part, obviously they will refund some of those. For your ticket and vacation packages, that's where it gets a little gray. But something as big as this, I know that they were handling it, and either taking some money off, maybe not completely, but they understand that you didn't get the fullness out of your vacation. So they're not completely out to get you.
No.
Meaning Disney.
But if you go through another
you might be
third
stuck.
party,
you might be stuck.
They don't care.
Yeah, I was going to say people who booked directly through Disney or, an agency like mine, then you're good to go. But other people, maybe not. I don't know.
So, Armello at MickeyTravels.com should you need to book your next Disney vacation to any Disney location across the world.
Yeah, across the world.
Even the cruises.
Even the cruises.
So, you know where to find her now, should you want to do that. This plug brought to you by... Anyways, sorry that was like a big, long-winded introduction to this episode, but I think it was important for us to mention, at least and recognize like what's going on in Disney now. Some of the effects of the hurricanes, and to let everybody in those areas affected by the last two major hurricanes to know that we're thinking and praying for you during these times. Time for a joke, though.
Okay.
So because
it better be a good one.
It is Halloween season, or spooky season as the kids like to say. It's our spooky era, or whatever the heck they say. Have you seen those like the TikToks and the other like short video clips? I don't know, what do you call those? Reels. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Have you seen those reels where they're at like museums? And it says like, what if the Gen Z intern like wrote the script?
Yes.
And it's like the random
really
like, and they're like, look at this painting.
No cap.
Slay.
Yeah. Slay. No cap.
She's a queen.
Yes, queen.
I love those. I think they're so funny, and it's especially funny. One of my colleagues and I were talking about this today, and she said this, and I'm like, you're absolutely right. She's like, it's best when it's an old boomer,
and they usually
who
are
is dead behind the eyes, though, not somebody who's like playing along and like smiling.
No,
but like the
like,
old
yes,
boomer
queen.
who's like dead behind
Slay.
the eyes. There's a local zoo actually that she showed me that did this, and they are known for their they do pumpkin spectacular this time of year, and it was like this old dude who works there, and he was like, it's our spooky era. Slay. Like, it's just so funny when it's like an old person
so
who's
dry,
like dead behind the like
just trying to
dead on
use
the
the
inside.
lingo.
Anyway, speaking of dead on the inside, it is spooky season. Slay. And
slay.
we are going to have another joke. Last year we had the exorcism. Last week we had the exorcism joke.
Last year.
This week I have a Dracula joke.
Okay.
What kind of dog does Dracula have?
What kind of dog? I feel like I'm going to overthink this. I don't know.
A bloodhound.
See, I knew I was going to overthink it. I wanted it to be like, I don't know. I don't know what I wanted it to be in my head, but I went through many different dog breeds to see if there was any. But that's a bloodhound is a real thing.
Another scary thing.
What happens if I get it right one time? Like, what if I guess the joke right?
I'll be pretty proud of you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these days.
Maybe one of these days you'll get one of my dad jokes.
There's a whole book. I bet I've heard one.
Anyways, what we're talking about this week is the worst time of year to go to Disney World. And we've already kind of talked about one potentially. This time of year.
I feel like weather is so unpredictable in a sense that I feel like it's definitely not a deal breaker. for like when you go. I feel like there's definitely, obviously, times even during hurricane season where it is beneficial for you to go and you can have a great time.
Sure. Well, and I think that this whole episode is under a false premise of, A, this is our opinion about the worst time to go. We may say a time of year to go that may be your favorite time of year to go. So before anybody throws Rotten Tomatoes at us, right, this episode, the name sounds like thrilling of like worst time of year to go to Disney. In reality, we're not going to tell you one worst time, and the things that we say are all our opinions anyways. So if you don't agree with us, that's totally fine. But the point of this episode is to give you things to consider when you're trying to pick a time and why you may want to stay away from certain times of year for different reasons.
Yeah. And this kind of just came up in the car. I don't really know how it like came up. I was just kind of like, what is there a worst time to go? Like the worst? Or is it kind of just like across the board, like there are different things to consider, but like is there a number one time where it's like, I don't know, that I would be like, no, I don't want to go during that time.
I don't know if there's a number one, but let's talk a little bit about it and see where we come out to it. We kind of already started to talk about this in the car, and Rachel was like, we should record this right now. And I was like, no, it's not going to come out good. We need the good microphone.
No, I know, but it was...
We need the microphone.
It was... We didn't continue the conversation. So now we're going to continue it because I feel like we stopped it because we were like, listen, we don't want to...
Yeah.
We don't want to keep going and ruin all the... Get rid of all of our good content here.
To me, my number one time of year that I think is a no-go for me personally is July.
Like any time in July?
I think any time in July. I think that whole month is problematic for several reasons. Namely, heat and crowds.
Yeah. Smack in the middle of summer.
Smack in the middle of summer. These are some of the hottest... This is one of the, if not the hottest month of the year in Central Florida. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. And to make matters worse, you are going to be packed like sardines.
Yeah, I definitely think, would it be really cool, pun intended, not cool, but would it be really cool to go for the 4th of July? Yes.
And I think I would like to.
I've never been at least one time, but I have clients in the past and friends of ours in the past that have gone for 4th of July, and we have even gone starting on the 5th. Right? I think with my family, we went for July 5th. The day after, yeah. And it's interesting to go that time of year.
It's just very busy.
It's busy, it's hot, and I just feel like you're run down more.
There tends to be a lot of youth groups that visit at this time of year too. So you tend to have like these masses of like 30 people plus that kind of all follow around the person with a flag. And sometimes like do their chants and stuff like that, which can be kind of obnoxious. So know that those kind of groups are going to be there. There's also just going to be a ton of people there, especially if you're there at the 4th of July, right? A lot of people want to go to see the special fireworks and some of the festivities that they do. And I too would like to see it.
Yeah.
I just think that if you go at that time of year in July, the heat and the crowds are just so much that I don't know that it's really worth a trip at that time of year.
Yeah.
My counter to that is August is still hot as hell. It's still hot.
Yeah. No, it's very hot.
That's the reality. It's very hot. We tend to go in August, though, in late August, because a lot of the country goes back to school in early August, including the people who live in Florida. So if you go in late August,
you kind of have
it's usually not horrible for hurricane
annual pass
season.
Holders aren't going
it's
as
hot,
much.
And the crowds tend to be much smaller.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who has to go during a school break, and you're in an area,
and I mean, we get it. I mean, me not so much anymore, but when I was in the school system, school vacations in summer, and we have other people in our family that are school vacations in summer, like we get that that's the only time of year you can go. But if you were going to pick a time in the summer, dead center in July wouldn't be it.
That's not.
There are other options.
I would
July.
go in August if you can.
Yeah.
I think that's a better summer month.
Weird one for me, and this is just because I have been 4 times during this year, would be Martin Luther King weekend in January. Not
And
saying,
why would that be?
because high school and college and other sports things at the ESPN Sports Complex are having their national cheer and dance competition. It's huge. Think like there are so many colleges and high schools that go down there for this event that when I was in that event, and I say that because I danced in it in college. So we went there for my 4 years of college. We did this. And literally all you see is teams in the parks. Now, the problem is that these are all college kids. So, yes, they're still representing a school, but yes, they can still be really rowdy. So, it's a lot. They also take up, we used to take up literally just all of the all-star resorts. So, if you're planning on going during that time, you know, knowing the events that are going on, because even in February, there's the marathon.
January.
Oh, it's in January.
Yes, and so I was going to also say that January,
it's like right after, right?
Early January.
Oh, it's right
no,
before,
it's right before. Tends to be marathon weekend.
Yeah.
And they do run Disney events throughout the course of the year. So anytime there's a run Disney event, people love going to those, and they will make a point to go at those times. They tend to be a little bit busier, but the really big weekend that tends to be the busiest is the marathon weekend, and that usually happens in early January. This year, it is January 8th through the 12th of 2025. Unless you're running in the marathon, I do not suggest going.
I mean, it's really good marketing as far as a business standpoint, because that does seem to be a more dead time of year to go. I feel like January and February aren't a big hit, maybe besides for February vacation week, depending on when schools do that. But I do feel like if it weren't for these big events, I feel like it would be a lot slower.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and it is.
It is slower.
We've been in other parts of January.
Yes.
And it's one of my favorite times of years to go. It is so cool. Sometimes it's even borderline cold at night, especially.
It was chilly.
But it's so comfortable in the parks. It's so easy to
especially
spend
if you're
the
someone
whole
who's
day.
only gone during the summer, to go in like a winter month is like kind of weird. You feel weird wearing a sweatshirt and jeans. Like walking around Disney, you're like, I should be sweating, but you're actually kind of chilly.
It's very comfortable, and it is a nice break too from, especially if you're from the northern part of the country, from winter weather up here. And you can spend the whole day in the park if you really wanted to. You're not overly drained from the weather. There tends to not be a lot of rain that time of year. You're in the dry season in Florida. And it tends to be, with the exception of those weekends where UDA and the other kind of cheer
UCA.
and UCA, so the dance and the cheer competitions are happening, and the marathon weekend, they tend to be pretty quiet times of year.
Yeah, I feel like end of January would be
to go.
really nice, honestly. Like the end of January.
And into early February, too.
Into early February, yeah. Like we've always said before, we would just personally avoid school vacation weeks.
If you can.
If you can, for February and April, because a lot of people do that. Kids are out of school anyway, so you don't have to take them out or anything, but crowds really do surge.
Yeah.
So
in our part of the country, right, we don't do a spring break unless you're in college in March. You do a February vacation and an April vacation. And those weeks tend to differ, but they're usually around like President's Day week in February, and usually around the middle point of April. You want to try to avoid those weeks if you can, unless, of course, this is a family-based podcast, right? I'm sure most of you listening to this have kids in school. And I'm not advocating ever for you to take your child out of school to go to Disney. However, just realize that if you're going to go during vacation week, everybody else who has kids your age is going to be doing the same thing.
I honestly feel like February is probably your better bet, because I feel like April is when people really start to like, because it's getting a little warmer, but it's like not too hot. But I don't know. I just feel like February vacation, people don't really go anywhere. I don't really
If
know
you
why.
can go, I think the tip with this would be if you can go kind of on the shoulders of the vacation, you may be better off. So if you can get your child out of school for like 3 days before or after vacation, and like let's say the Wednesday before
Like a
February
Wednesday to
vacation,
Wednesday.
leave for Disney on that Wednesday, spend the weekend, and then by the Monday or Tuesday of vacation week, get out of there, or the same thing on the back end of it. I think you may be a little bit better off because you may get a few days in there where it's lower crowds before the crowds really start to pick back up again.
Yeah. Another, I don't know if I would want to go. Again, I think this is one of those, like, if I could go at every time during the year, I would, at least once. Or every holiday. But after Christmas until the new year, what are your thoughts on that time of year?
I think it's absolutely crazy. These are some of the busiest times of year. From Christmas to New Year's Day are going to be some of the busiest days in the park because people want to be there at Christmas and they want to be there for the New Year's celebration. And it is just wall-to-wall people. Besides the 4th of July time frame, this is usually the time of year where you're going to see parks reach capacity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you see them shut down because they've reached capacity, it's usually around Christmas and New Year's or around the 4th of July. Those are
I remember just this last
times.
Christmas that there was lines out, wrapping around down towards the Contemporary to, like, get in. It's insane. And I get people would want to go to Disney for Christmas, or it's like that's your gift to them and then you leave like the next day or something. But be warned. The
weather's going to be nice probably, but the crowds are going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And like I watch the videos of people, and I would like to go on New Year's Eve. I think that would be really cool one year to do it. But I just watched some of those videos of how many people are in the parks.
It's just pure anxiety that you're just like, just too many people.
It stresses me out.
So if you're not a crowd person, don't go.
It stresses me out.
Because you'll have a panic attack.
So bad. It really does. Like watching those videos, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
like,
look at them.
I imagine
and the loud music
now,
and people dancing. It's like.
Like, I can imagine just how crowded it is on a normal, I don't know, random Tuesday at the end of August, and how crowded it is at Magic Kingdom for the fireworks, and how packed that is. And I can't even imagine, like, you're already not shoulder to shoulder, but like you're getting there. And Christmas and New Year's Eve, I mean, you can't see the floor. Like, I can do crowds, and I don't even know if I would be able to stay.
Yeah.
That's just too much.
I would like to try New Year's one year, but I think it would be a one and done thing. Like, okay, cool, I did it. Now I never want to do that.
Kind of like when people go to Times Square.
I would never do that. There's zero desire in my heart or mind.
That's similar crowd levels, I feel like.
Yeah, but Disney's magical. Times Square's in the middle of New
York.
New York is
the
miserable.
City.
Oh my god, it's cold, it's dirty, it's miserable. Oh my gosh, it's New York City. Come on,
I mean,
give me
it's
a break.
magical.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
New York. Come on, they play the song.
Sorry if you're from New York City, but I think most people in New York City would agree with me, okay? That is a...
Well, I also couldn't imagine living there with that amount of
place.
people right in there. Like,
oh, God.
You're stuck in your house for at least 2 days because...
No, New York City, absolutely not.
But you would do Disney.
I would do Disney on New Year's Eve. That's the most magical place on earth. I would put up with the crowds for that.
It is.
But New York City on New Year's Eve... Honestly, I'm not being dramatic. I may rather chew glass than go and do that.
I think that is really dramatic.
I don't think it is. I think it's...
I really think it is.
No, I don't think it is at all. I think that would be a
really,
more
if
painful...
it wasn't as cold as it is...
It is disgusting.
I don't think it would be
disgusting.
that bad.
Think of all those people breathing all over each other in the middle of winter, in the cold. That's a breeding ground for disease. Breeding ground for disease.
So everyone just has
and the trash,
the flu after.
And everybody's kissing each other. Ridiculous.
You're a little bit of a germaphobe.
Disgusting.
So.
Viruses everywhere.
Yeah. He's a little bit of a germaphobe.
Like, honestly, ridiculous.
And Disney's not a breeding ground for germs?
I was going to say something, but it may not have been the best thing to say, so I won't say it.
Good, don't say it.
The last time of year.
Yeah.
I think you should stay away from, if you can, is spring break. Same concept applies
so like
here.
mid-March.
Certain schools in the country will do a spring break, even not at the collegiate level, but at the lower levels. You just run the risk of that mid-March time frame, and I'm excited and interested to see we're going late March to our trip into early April. I'm really interested to see after spring break, like that kind of shoulder season between the end of spring break season and right before April vacation season, like what the crowds are like
Yeah,
and
because
what
when
the
are we
weather's
coming back?
like.
Like April 4th?
April 3rd, I think.
3rd?
Yeah. So I'm excited to see like what the crowds are like that time of year, and to be able to kind of judge, is that maybe like a sweet spot in between those two major seasons. But we've been during spring break before.
Yeah, we have.
It tends to be busy, and you're going to get a lot of college kids
Yep.
who are there and love college kids, but sometimes they can be annoying.
We were one at one time.
They can be annoying. They can forget that they're in a family park sometimes, especially if they're in Epcot trying to drink around the world. So just know that time of year, right? It's going to be very busy in those 3 weeks in March that are in the middle of the month when schools go on spring break. So although the weather's beautiful, although, I think it's a great time to be in Florida and not in a lot of places in this country because of the weather, crowds, man.
Really the reason why I thought of this particular topic was really because if we could poll everybody who has gone to Disney, or I guess whatever, regardless of experience or how many times they've gone or whatever, I do think that there could be a time that we could narrow down as the least, maybe not least popular, but the most unenjoyable time to go.
I think the 4th of July to me is the one that, if I was to pick one of those that I think I would definitely stay away from, that first week of July I think is just kind of suicidal to go. The crowd levels are crazy. The heat is ridiculous. The humidity's even worse.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of the swamp in July. Never a good mixture. You're going to get aggravated because you're going to be there waiting in long lines with a lot of people. Everything's just going to be hot. You're going to sweat. You're going to go through 3 pairs of clothes a day. Then you might get caught in an afternoon thunderstorm and get soaking wet anyway. So now you're going to go through 4 pairs of clothes a day because now you're soaking wet. Although it may feel great to be in the rain at that point because you're so hot. Early July I would 100% stay away from. I think that, to me, and there may be people who call me crazy because the 4th of July fireworks are amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not
I really don't know. I don't know. I'm not,
You were the one that came up with this.
I
What
know,
do you mean you don't know?
But that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I don't know. So I wanted to, I want to hear other opinions, not just yours. I know what your opinion is.
This is a podcast.
I know.
And we talk about our opinions on
I understand that, but
That's
I would
how
just be
this
interested to
works.
see. Listen, that's exactly what I told you in the car, so don't use my words against me.
That's why I said it.
I know you did. But no, really. I feel like if I'd want to see the data. I think it would be cool to see exactly what were the most unenjoyable times to go.
Well, put a poll up.
I know, I just want millions of people to poll on it to get a better.
Well, maybe
not
millions
just,
of people
5.
will poll, and maybe millions of people will start listening to us.
Maybe.
I highly doubt it, but maybe.
You never know.
So, folks, that is what we think. We are, though, interested in hearing what you think. I think that you should maybe put up a poll on the Instagram or on the Facebook page or something and see if anybody responds. I think that would be kind of cool to poll the audience and see if everybody else has a different time of year that they would not like, or if they think that we were correct
or a lot of
with
people
our...
in that same mindset as us. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Anyways, before we wrap up today, folks, I have a major announcement for you, okay? I want you to rewind to last week's episode, and you may remember that my dad joke that I mentioned earlier in this episode, Shaka Waka, was from the Muppets Haunted Mansion, and it was the joke about the exorcism bill. Go back and listen to the episode. I'm not
You're really
going
going
to
to
tell you
call
the
me
joke
out
here.
right now?
Today, prior to the recording of this episode, Rachel, who said she didn't like the Muppets, and who said that she was not a big fan of the Muppets Haunted Mansion, do you know what she turned on without me saying anything or prompting it? She literally just sat down and turned it on. I, in fact, was even making food. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I was not even in the room, and she turned it on.
I need a rebuttal.
No.
Yes, I do.
No. Let me finish. She turned it on, and she was watching it. And I looked at her, and I'm like, wow, for somebody who doesn't like this, you put it on the TV an awful lot. That being now the second time, at least, that I've seen her turn that on in this spooky season, as the kids like to say. And I looked at her, and I said,
And what was
you like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward? You like the Muppets Haunted Mansion, don't you, Rachel?
I never said I hated it. And can I tell you exactly what I said to
only the true connoisseurs of
I'm going to tell them
good TV and shows will understand my Squidward reference.
What I said.
But those of you
to
who are SpongeBob fans know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is exactly what I looked at her, because I'm like, you've been hiding it.
No,
but you like
I haven't
Krabby
been hiding
Patties,
it.
don't you, Squidward?
What did I tell you? You wouldn't let me put on the original Haunted Mansion because you said it was too scary for our son.
Objectively, that's true.
So I said, fine, then we'll have to do the Muppet one, because that one's more kid friendly.
You don't have to watch anything. You could have also
I want to watch Haunted Mansion.
You also could have put on The Nightmare Before Christmas, which you also love, and Luke also likes.
I don't know, he's not really that into it right now. I tell him I'm going to put it on, and he goes, no, skeleton. He doesn't want Jack right now.
Listen, I'm just saying.
I'm done.
You could put other things on,
okay,
and you chose to put that on.
You're right.
So I think you secretly really like the Muppets Haunted Mansion. And for that, shaka waka. Anyways, folks, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. Like, subscribe, follow us on all of our social media accounts. Make sure that you're staying up to date with the latest episodes. We do post a new episode every Monday at 6 a.m. for your Monday morning commute. So make sure that you're following us for all the latest materials.
But not on this Monday. Hopefully you have the day off today when you're listening to this episode.
But this will post at 6 a.m. anyways.
No, I know. But I'm saying hopefully you're not up at 6 a.m. on a long weekend. Hopefully you have the day off.
Maybe you are, because your son and or daughter woke you up at that time if they don't know it's a holiday.
True. This is true.
The life of a parent. Anyways, like and follow us on our social media accounts. Send us an email at startswithawish.podcast@gmail.com. If you're looking to book your next Disney vacation, reach out to Rachel at rmello@mickeystravels.com. And remember, folks, it all starts with a wish. We'll see you real soon.
Bye.